everyone, so week 4, video number 2, and last time I spoke to you about what you've experienced so far, the results you've got so far, our grand scheme of the trial session, and hopefully you're looking at stopping on with us. But one thing that I've done up until this point is give you detox, give you the detox, so the 7-day plan, the 14-day plan, the handouts. And in there you'll have noticed there's a little bit of explanation around why we're doing what we're doing, why we're taking away certain foods, why we're trying to implement other foods, and why we're trying to change those practices. But what I haven't done yet, and what I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about food, okay? So I know a lot of you have probably done Weight Watchers and Slimming World and those kind of things before. So I think they do give you a kind of a basis of what certain food groups are, okay? But I'm going to go over those just to cover the basics. And then in the videos that follow this and in the main members group, we're going to keep going over those kind of things, okay? So food, it's what you eat, obviously. It's going to be consisting of 3 or 4 main factors, okay? So number 1, protein, okay? So your sources of protein are going to be fish, chicken, beef, lamb, any kind of meat basically. If you're vegetarian, there are protein substitutes such as tofu, tempeh, soya. There's lots and lots of other different types of protein. Some coming from beans, but this for me is a controversial topic because beans and most pulses, yes, they do contain protein, but they actually contain more carbohydrates than they do protein. So in my book, they would fall into the carbohydrate dominant food group, okay? All the food groups that I'm going to discuss, and most of the food groups that you'll see in most diet plans are described as foods that are high in protein, fats, carbohydrates. That's not to say that they only contain those, okay? So a lot of meats, particularly red meat, oily fish, they contain proteins and fats as well, okay? So just watch your cuts of meat aren't too kind of fatty, like things like lamb steaks can be very lean but also can be very fatty. A lamb neck, which is a really cheap cut, is really fatty. Belly draft, which is pork, again very fatty. But pork loin, which is like the kind of fillet part of the pig, is extremely lean as well. So quite good sources of protein, okay? Things to watch when you're looking at protein is always kind of get from a welfare point of view, get the best that you can afford, okay? So if you can get higher welfare, organic, then do that. If not, don't worry too much about it, but it's always better to get the best meat that you can, okay? Always get fish in the diet as well. Fish is a really good source of protein. It's something that in this country, I'm sure you've seen before, that we don't eat enough of, okay? So vary the fish, oily fish, white fish, cod, haddock, plaice, all that kind of stuff, really good protein. And again, it's a palm-sized portion, and 2 if you're a man, okay? Now, moving on, let's go for fats, okay? So fats could be the fats from your oily fish. It could be fats that you add to your food to season it, like olive oil. It could be fats that you use to cook it in, like coconut oil or butter, okay? That being said, you can also add fats to your smoothies and shakes in the form of nut butters or coconut oil, or if you really want to, olive oil, but I wouldn't suggest it because it's probably going to taste nasty. But those are the elements that need to be in the meal as well. Oil's good for your skin. It's good for making hormones. It's good for making you feel full. And it's also just good for pretty much all-round health as well. On that, protein is good for repairing muscles and recovering for the next session and maintaining lean mass. Lean mass burns fat. More lean mass, more fat burn, okay? And the stronger that you get. And that doesn't mean that lean mass takes up loads and loads of space, that if you eat loads of protein, you're going to get bulky. If you eat a load of cakes, you're going to get bulky, okay? It's not necessarily the same thing with high protein foods, okay? Now, carbohydrates. This one, with the health industry and the food industry being what it is, sensationalist. Carbohydrates have been demonized in the past few years, but before that, in the low fat kind of era of dieting. Carbohydrates were kind of championed. So these things go in and out of favor depending on what diet is in fashion at the moment. Although in the industry we're kind of seeing more of a full circle now, and we're looking at more balanced diets rather than going all into kind of caveman eating or low carb or low fat or whatever. Okay, so carbohydrates, these are your grains. Okay, so if you can tolerate bread, then fine, have bread. If you can't tolerate bread, then avoid white flour. We'll have determined this in the 7-day plan right at the beginning of your 6-week program. But other carbohydrates include white potato, sweet potato. These are pretty much synonymous. There's not much in it. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you have white or sweet potato, as long as your portion control is about a fist-sized portion on a training day for now. Okay, which actually does equate to about 5, 6 or 7 wedges if you cut them into wedges. Nando's do the really good portion size. You usually get about 6 wedges with that. Okay, same with white potato. It's pretty much the same kind of score. Moving on, rice. Rice is a bit of a tricky customer. You want a fist-sized portion of cooked rice. So this is where those microwave packs are probably a good option. Okay, strictly they're not that processed. They're just cooked and it's just rice. Okay, if you're looking at doing it from scratch and doing it dry weight, you're probably looking at about 50 to 70 grams depending on your body size. So it doesn't look like a lot of rice actually in the pan when you cook it. Okay, it's about a cup and a half full depending on your fist size. Okay, other sources of carbohydrates that are much higher in nutrients, things like quinoa. Okay, starts with a Q, quinoa or quinoa. Okay, it comes in different colours, comes red, white, I think brown as well. Kind of nutty in texture, would replace rice mostly, or couscous. Again, very high in protein, very high, not so high in carbohydrates, but quite a good alternative. It's also higher in carbohydrates than it is protein, so technically a carbohydrate dominant food. Now what else is there? Now saying this, there's the low carb option if you're not on a training day. So there was a while ago skinny noodles, which are made from some kind of root. They're quite good. They do skinny rice, which is kind of low carb, really low carb rice. It's kind of gelatinous, comes in a preformed pack, and you can heat it up just in boiling water. A word of warning with that: if you do find the 0-calorie noodles or whatever it is that they're calling them now, stick to the portion size that they recommend. Okay, if it says half a pack, don't have any more. Okay, because if you have a whole pack, and I've done this, it doesn't sit well in the stomach. It doesn't mean that you're going to be sick. It's the other end. Okay, it runs straight through you. Okay, I don't know what it does. Don't know why it does that. But apparently that's quite a common reaction to having too many of those. Okay, so without me kind of going on, that's the proteins. So your meats, your poultry, your protein substitutes, your carbohydrates. So your rice, your potato, sweet potato, white potato, brown rice, wild rice, pretty much very similar in carbohydrate content. And your fats, which is your coconut oils, your olive oils, your nut butters, that kind of stuff. Moving on after that, we've got fiber. Okay, so greens. You must have greens. Okay, this is probably one of the most common things that I see in people coming into boot camp, and other people that I speak to that are struggling to lose weight, is that they either can't be bothered to cook vegetables. I know I have those days where I just can't be bothered to cook all of the vegetables and stuff, and just really fanny around with doing salads and kale and all that kind of stuff. This is where frozen veg comes in. Okay, so use frozen veg, 2 grabfuls. Okay, so that's in each meal, 3 to 4 times a day if you can manage it. What we find with people that have got a low fiber intake is that, again, they hold on to fluids, they hold on to water, and then therefore they hold on to fats. This can be another one of those pivotal things where people will keep the brakes on their fat loss. So you must make sure that you get fiber. Okay, it's a surefire way to lose body fat. Increase your fiber, you're going to lose body fat. You're also going to go to the toilet a lot more and probably feel a little bit better in yourself as well. You're going to have less lower abdominal bloating. Okay. Hydration and water, I've been through this before, but again, it's about 2.5 litres for the average person. 37 ml per kilo of body weight is a rough estimation that I found in a sports nutrition book, and it tends to work quite well. So 2.5 to 3.5 litres, depending on your body size. I spoke a little bit more about staying on long term. There's more help with your nutrition and your diet going forwards. If you are staying on long term, we've got cookbooks in the group. We've got other meal plans as well. We've got a low carb and a carb cycle plan. And all these are put together to make it easy for you. Okay. All the ingredients that I've just been through, protein, carbs, fats, and your fibers and your water, should be on your plate every meal 3 to 4 times per day. Okay. So thumb-sized portion of fat, fist-sized portion of carbohydrates if you've trained. If you haven't and you really need something, have half a fist-sized portion, palm-sized portion or 2 palm-sized portions if you're a man of protein. That's in area and thickness. That's about an 8-ounce steak, and then 2 grabs of vegetables that grow above ground. Okay, so anything that's green and leafy, and the more kind of fibrous the better. Okay, so your cabbages, your kale, your savoy, all those kind of things. Okay, they're the best to have. Okay, so that's how to put together your meal. If you're looking at stopping on, drop me a message. I'll send you the options for staying on. If you haven't left us a review already, please do that. I'll put the link below, but it's just on our Facebook page. If you could leave us a 5-star review and then just write out a little bit about your experience with us and your weight loss so far. As normal, I'm in the club on Wednesday at 7 p.m. and on Saturday at 9 a.m. to help you out with any diet questions you've got. I can get one of my team to measure you as well if you need that, and we can talk about stopping on further as well. Okay, so as usual, contact me on the Facebook group, reply via email or on those days that I just stated, and have a great week, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.